got out of my system, but it's a strange thing growing up as someone with Jewish blood in you, finding that the music and drama of Richard Wagner has an extraordinary effect on you, or one that you think of as a force for good, you know, that this is great art, truly, truly great and extraordinary art, and yet knowing that he himself was such a monster, and that he inspired such monsters, principally the Hitler we've already discussed. And so I made a documentary about Gutenberg and the invention of printing, and the kind people at BBC4 who had screened it said, if there's any other sort of individual project like that that you're interested in, we might talk and see if we wanted to do it. So I said, well, would your heart sink if I said I was really interested in making a film about Richard Wagner? And he went, no, that could be interesting. I said, look, I know, I mean, anybody who loves Wagner is used to seeing a film glaze over people's eyes, even before the gut of Wagner has got out of your mouth, because he's not to everyone's taste, and not even, aside from his own unpleasantness, and aside from the connection with Nazism, about which one could talk forever, there's simply the length of his works. I mean, the Ring Cycle is 4 operas, not, he called them operas, but let's call them operas just for the sake of convenience, of which you have to see over a week, you know, so you see Das Rheingold, the first one, on Monday. That's an average length opera. It's about 3.5 hours. Then on Tuesday, you see Die Walküre, which is, it's 4.5 hours. Then you get Wednesday off. Well, it's not you getting Wednesday off, it's the singers are getting Wednesday off. Then Thursday, you get Siegfried, the third one. And now you're going into the theatre about 3 o'clock in the afternoon in order to come out at a reasonable time, like 10:30. So then you get Friday off, and then you get the biggie, then you get Goethe Dämmerung. And that's huge. I mean, it's in 3 acts, like all of them. The first act is longer than the whole of Tosca. This is what you're talking about. Meistersinger is longer than even the Goethe Dämmerung. So these are massive works, and it is easy to see why all the jokes go, you know, it's got marvellous moments, but terrible half hours, and, you know. But once it enters your soul, it's very hard for it not to be there. And even if one was to say one despised it, it's the enormousness and the enormity, if you like, of his legacy. One of the nicest things that ever happened to me as far as Wagner is concerned is years and years ago I wrote for the Listener magazine, a regular column, and the Listener is long defunct, of course, and I happened to write a review of a book by Brian McGee called Aspects of Wagner, which is still one of the best books written on Wagner, very, very short book, oddly enough. And a week and a half later, I got a letter. It said, All Souls College, Oxford. Dear Mr. Fry, I read with interest your views on Wagner, your views as a Jew on Wagner, your views as a non-religious Jew on Wagner, your views as a Wagnerite on Wagner, your views as a Wagnerite on the Jew. And you wrote that. Very funny, elegant letter. Perhaps a lunch would not disgust you. I have a club in London called the Garrick. Maybe we could meet there. Yours, etc. Isaiah Berlin. God. So I thought I'd do anything. I'd walk 10 miles over broken glass with no shoes to meet Berlin. So of course I said yes, and we met. And he loved Wagner too, but also, of course, had the gravest doubts about it. But he said, you know, he had a very guttural voice, which I won't try and repeat. But it always sounded as if he was about to choke. But he said, if a genius, he said, there are ways people define genius, and it's not really a very useful word, but there ought to be a word, and it may as well be genius, that describes someone who, whatever their field may be, when they leave it, it is different. Nothing is the same because they lived in that field. They changed the way things were done. And in those terms, Wagner was the greatest genius in art there ever was. He said, he altered everything. He altered the way. He was the first person to turn his back on an audience to conduct. When you see Beethoven conducting the Ninth in a movie with his back to the audience, it's an anachronism. It didn't happen until Wagner. He changed, I mean, you should read Barenboim on the subject of Wagner's conductor. It's absolutely fascinating. He changed the way music was, chromatically, harmonically, at the most profound levels. He absolutely, and of course he changed the nature of opera, of drama, and the role of the artist. He was hugely important. Schoenberg and Mahler completely dispelled, of course. Mahler said there is only Beethoven and Richard. No one else matters. And the French, Debussy and Ravel, they were all in his thought. He was huge. Now we only see the part of him, perhaps, that is either, God, is this sort of pompous festival figure, the Bayreuth Festival, but there is something so extraordinary about the emotions unleashed in his music. Once you enter it, I understand how you see those kind of dragons and goddesses. It's like bloody Tolkien. I don't want that. Well, I can fully understand that. I happen not to be a fan of Tolkien particularly, and it's certainly nothing to do with dragons and goddesses that makes me love it. It's so hugely emotional, and it's about love and redemption, and it's so beautiful and astounding and explosive. Anyway, I can tell quite rightly what shatteringly bored by me talking about. There you are, there may be a few bad writing.